What's up guys, today we're going to be ranking the best Iems at around $160, sales included. A lot of new ones have come out, so let's just get into it. Starting with the all-rounders, if you're looking for an inoffensive, smooth, non-fatiguing, balanced, clean sound, then I would recommend checking out the EPZ P50s or the Cranier Daybreaks. Either one of these work. There is a slight difference in the vocals where the P50s pop out a little bit more, and then the Daybreaks are a little bit better balanced overall, a little bit more bassy in the sub bass. But aside from that, both of these will do the job if you need a non-fatiguing, smooth and clean and all-rounder set. Then after those, if you're looking for something cleaner, less warm, less smooth, a little bit sharper in the imaging, post in a little more detail, slightly better in the separation, then we do still have the Supermix 4, the Chopin, the Nova. In terms of tonality, I think more people will enjoy the P50s and the Daybreaks a little bit better because it's just less shouty, a little bit fuller in the lower mids. But if you're looking for a more technical experience, then those three would be still very good. Another option here, if you want a clean, balanced sound, very technical, good all-rounder, but without the, shout, without the upper mids, but you don't really want that warm and smoothed out sound like the P50s or the Daybreaks, then we have the Kiwi Ears Aether. These are basically a cheaper, airier version of the full Performer 5+2, less like sizzly in the treble versus the 5+2, and overall very good clean neutral set without the upper mid shout. Then after the Aether, if you're looking for something that's all-rounded but just warmer and bassier but still pretty well balanced, we have the Kiwi Ears Aroso. If you want something that is warmer leaning, a little bit airier, less like dynamic and exciting, more laid back, slightly like thicker in the overall presentation, these are basically a more detailed version of the EW300, direct upgrades to those. And then if you're looking for something more, I guess, like bassy in the sub bass, then an option here would be the Confined Quatillo in the black nozzles. These are a just very dynamic, engaging, very bassy sound signature. I don't really recommend the other nozzles because those are a bit brighter in the upper mids, and I think if you're looking for a bassier all-rounder sound, then the Quatillo will do that pretty well. An honorable mention here would be the CCA Hydro. These are slight V-shape. It has a lot of like mid-bass impact. The upper mids extension and treble is pretty well extended. The only issue is that it's KZ, the QC issue. The variance is kind of there, so I can't fully recommend it. But if you don't mind KZ, if you don't mind the univariance, these are also a very good option if you want more like a dynamic, engaging, slight V-shaped bassy sound. Next, moving on to a more neutral sound signature, my pick here would be the Tantrum Fission in the middle switch configuration. These are basically a cheaper version of the Tantrum Origin, very smooth, clean, balanced, slightly, I don't want to say warm, but it's full in the mid bass, but you still get the smooth treble and upper mids extension, and you don't get too much sub bass, so it makes it a good neutral kind of set that just like does the job very well. Another option here would be the Ziga Chinos. If you want something that is literally just like a straight line, you don't want the upper mids like boost, you find that to be a bit shouty, but you still want a neutral sound signature, then the Chinos are the pick here. Very, I guess, like just neutral, well balanced, good in the separation and layering. Overall, just a decent set. Now, if you want something that scales better but is still neutral and balanced, then my rec here would be the Ziga Lush. You can find these for around like 160, 150 on sale, and basically this is a cleaner version of the Chinos that scales better, slightly better in the technical performance, and very smooth, laid back, but well balanced once you crank it up. Now, moving on to vocals, my pick for an all-rounder vocal set would be the C Audio Yume OG. These are still very good even now. I think these came out like almost 3 years ago, which is like ancient in Sci-Fi terms, but these are mid-centric, vocal-centric, clean, balanced. The treble is pretty smooth overall. It's not going to be the most dynamic and fun kind of set, but if you do want a more vocal presentation but still pretty smooth without the treble and the bass getting in the way, then the Yume OGs are still a fantastic pick. Then as for male vocals, my pick here would be the Full Magic one at mid volume. These have a nice hump in the mid bass, thicker, warmer, fuller in the overall note weight. The extension and the power is still there in the upper mids. Treble extension is still pretty decent. Overall, just a well-tuned set if you're looking for male vocals. Another option here would be the Hydus MK12. These are actually my favorite vocal sets under 200 in the red nozzle configuration at high volumes. Now, at mid volume, these sound a bit just kind of like too warm, but if you crank it up, the vocals pop out more. The balance is there. It takes you on this like warm, intimate, but still like powerful, extended vocal immersion. It's just a very good vocal set if you listen louder and especially good for male vocals. Now, as for female vocals, we're looking for something that's slightly brighter leaning but still well balanced overall, and my pick here would be the Simgot EM6L. It does lean slightly bright in the upper mids and the treble, but it is very smooth, all things considered. You're not gonna get any like fatigue, sharpness, like jagginess in the overall sound. It's just a very sweet, slightly bright, airy listen. The only issue here is the unit variance, because the newest one that I got is slightly brighter than my older EM6L, which is, I guess, like better balance, but they both are still pretty smooth, still slight bright leaning, and they still do the job. Then lastly, if you're looking for something that's more dynamic but still clean and very clear, but also contrasty at the same time, that scales good as well, then I would recommend giving the Lecture DX1 a shot. They're not the best at lower volumes, so you do need to crank them up a bit more to kind of get the full effect of the sound, but these are a still very unique set at the price. But moving on, as for a bassy and warm IEM, starting off with the warm ones, my pick here would be the Arty T10 Pros and the Kiwiers KE4s, which I did see them go on sale on Amazon for $160, so we're safe here for the price. The T10 Pros are basically a mini version of the Symphonium meters. They're both very warm, thick in the mid bass, but it's got the speed, it's got the airiness and extension in the treble, so it's not like overly warm. It's got like this warm but dreamy sound signature that I think a lot of people will like if you like a warmer leaning set. The KE4s, on the other hand, are also similar in that it's warm and airy, but the main difference is that the vocals are more laid back, less forward, they scale a little bit better, it's a little bit more immersive, and it doesn't have the quote-unquote planar timbre as the T10 Pros. So it is slightly better, I guess, in that sense, but it's also almost like 2 times more. So value-wise goes to the T10 Pros. On the other hand, if you're looking for something that's more bass head centric, more sub-bass focused, you want the slam, you don't really care about like the warmness, the relaxing airiness, you want that slam and the energy, the impact, any bass, then the 7Hz legato still does that very well. The amount of low end you get is going to be more impactful. It sounds more authoritative, more thunder-like versus the more laid back and warm sound of the T10 Pros and the KE4s. If you want more impact and energy, you listen to hip hop more, you want like a bass head kind of set, then the legatos would be a very solid choice. Then lastly, if you want a sub bass focused set that scales very well, you don't want the upper mids energy, you don't want the extra vocal, the extra treble, then the Full Explore does this still very well. It's still one of the best like scaling sets for a reason. A lot of people like these because they're relaxing but still bassy at the same time and very immersive, and they're also like under $100. Then as for some honorable mention, if you want a thicker version of the Explorer that still scales very well, then the HBB Arcadias are a solid choice here. Only reason they're an honorable mention is because they're past 160. I haven't seen them go on sale for lower than like 170, so price wise they are like $70 to $80 more than the Explorer, and it's not a huge difference in technical performance. Like the bass does feel thicker and I guess it sounds a little bit harder, but value wise I would give it over to the Explorer. Another honorable mention would be the Kiwiers A2. These have a more, I guess, like unique flavor to the bass. It has this delayed reverb echoey effect to the sound that gives the bass like more, I guess, decay to the sound. It feels like bouncy in the overall bass texture, and it might not be everyone's cup of tea, and it's not the most warm or bassy set as well. It's actually pretty well balanced, all things considered. You can also find these for around $100, so they are pretty well priced as well, but it might just not be everyone's cup of tea. Moving on, as for some sets that are brighter and more treble focused, my pick here would be number 1, the HBB Heydays. These have a clean, bright, slightly neutral, bright leaning sound that is pretty detailed, pretty technical, and airy and sparkly in the overall presentation. Now it does have a slight planar sizzle to the treble. It's not going to be the most natural in the timbre, but it's still pretty technical, and if you're looking for a bright leaning set that doesn't kill your ears, not sharp, not super fatiguing, then the Heydays are still a decent option when it goes on sale. Another option here would be the Kiwiers Kanta. It is a warmer version of the Heydays, but you still get like the airiness, the sparkliness, the brighter kind of sound signature like the Heydays, but just a little bit warmer now. The Kantas are slightly less technical than the Heydays and the separation, but when it comes to value, the Kanta is like $90 to $70 on sale. It's 2 times cheaper, and you're getting relatively the same sound. And an honorable mention here, if you want something that's more natural, less like sizzly in the treble, then the EM6L would be a decent choice. The main issue is that I wouldn't say the EM6L is a treble kind of leaning like super bright set. It's an all-rounder that is bright leaning, but it is more natural. So if you're okay with sacrificing some of that energy for a more natural and smoother sound, then the EM6L is also very good because it's also like 90 bucks and more natural. Then lastly, for the best value IEMs at around $160, let's start off with the honorable mentions first. If we're talking about pure like bargain, like pure price to performance, my pick here would be the SIMGOT EM6L and the SIMGOT EA500LM. The main difference is that the EM6L is smoother in the treble, more refined in the overall sound, while the LM is like more dynamic, spark clear, more I guess like contrasty and sharper and more energetic. But the main issue is that both of these are bright leaning, and you do get unit variance depending on like the most recent set you get. For example, my most recent EM6L is brighter than the earlier one I got, and then some others LM is a lot brighter than the one that I got. So because of unit variance, I'm gonna say a maybe depending on which unit you get. But if we're talking about value, these two are pretty great. Another honorable mention here would be the Juicier Define. These are a pretty fun sub-bassy all-rounder sound. Their overall packaging is pretty good as well, but the main issue is the quality control. The first unit I got had a pretty bad channel imbalance in the low end, and then the second unit, my case started like breaking, the zipper broke after like 1 to 2 weeks of use. So not the best when it comes to QC. If you want to coin flip the QC, I would say these are still pretty decent option, but just a heads up on the quality control. But honorable mentions aside, my pick for the best value IEMs at 160 would actually still be the Super Mix for the Nova and the Chopin, even over the newer P50s and the Daybreaks. And the reason is because in terms of pure technical performance, in terms of like value that you're getting, the Super Mix 4 is 125, the Nova is 115, the Chopin is like around 150, and all three of those are cheaper and more technical than the P50s and the Daybreaks. Now, in terms of tonality, you can make the argument that the P50s and the Daybreaks, or even some of the other sets, are quote-unquote, you know, better sounding, more natural, less shouty, you know, because it's not Harman. But the issue is that tonality is subjective, and that changes depending on every person. So if we're trying to look at this from an objective perspective, then the Super Mix 4 is cheaper than the P50s, and you're getting more performance at a cheaper price. So because of that, I'm still gonna recommend the Super Mix 4, the Nova, and the Chopin as a better value. That aside, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope this guide was helpful. Let me know what your favorite IEM is under 160. Whether or not you agree or disagree, drop it down in the comments below, and I'll see everyone in the next video.
Shout out to Dom Q, Rark's Cat, Mystic Spoon, Attack, B. Urak, Discal Scaldus, Walker Standard, Patrick, User, Contain Guava Juice Gains, Mr. Gorillas, Polly J, Giseng Young, Christopher Jackson, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, Wizard, Obi, Treble Well Extended, Frickalicious, Ricardo, Tapis Art, Choco Norris, Tamat, Shen Bakale, FKSRG, Cousin Fat Fat, Julius, Dead Riddle, Belha, Ardmore, Nico, Parham, Nicholas, Brandon, Addy, Circle Gaming, Harder to Play, Wayu, Michael, Denir, Jacob, Vinicius, LL, Andy, Trackstar, Sammy, Funtime, Sergip, Peter, Someone Help Me, Oh Really, Syracuse, Little Meat, Ryan, Lithan, Shori, Sweet Rain, Tort Cog, I'm J-Rack, Raphael, Ori, Hakase, June, Over Analog, Lama, and Cell. Thank you guys so much for the support.